Out of eyes tryna put me on a t-shirt. Shorty want me so bad, do you know?
Here's how you can create stunning 3D text in After Effects without using any external plugins, just like you saw in the intro. I've spent over 9 years mastering video editing, and in this tutorial, I've simplified the process so that no matter your skill level, beginner, intermediate, or pro, you can easily follow along and create an amazing result. With my step-by-step method, you not only fully understand the techniques I use, but also you'll gain the skills necessary to apply them to your own projects. Plus, I'm giving you my premium editing assets and the full project file all for free. Link in the description, go check it out. So, without further ado, let's dive straight into it. Now, the first thing you want to do is click on New Composition, rename it to something like 3D Text, and go over to the 3D Render tab here. Once you're there, make sure you change the renderer to Cinema 4D and click OK. Now, in this composition, let's create a text layer by hitting Ctrl T on your keyboard and just click anywhere on your video where you want to place your text. Type out the text that you want to turn into some 3D text. In my case, it's gonna be 3D. And once you're done, just click somewhere around here to deselect the text. If you want to change the font or the size of your text, then click on the text in the timeline and you can change those properties over here. Next, let's make this a 3D layer by turning on this cube icon over here. If you don't see it, then just click toggle switches/mode to pop it up and turn it on. Then, we'll start adding some dimensions to this really boring text to finally make it a little bit more interesting. To do that, click on this drop down arrow, go to geometry options, and change the extrusion depth to something like 100. Make the bevel style angular right here, and that's all we have to do to the text for now. After that, let's add a camera in here to let us pan around the text and bring the dimensions that we've just implemented to life. You can do this by right-clicking the empty space here, go to New, and select Camera. Make sure the preset is set to 35mm and hit OK. Now, if you select the camera layer in your timeline and hold C on your keyboard while at the same time clicking and moving your text around, you can see the beautiful 3D text starting to take shape. But of course, this doesn't look that realistic because we don't have any light around it yet. So, let's get to adding some light sources by right-clicking the empty space here, go to New, and go to Light. Make sure the light type is set to Parallel and click OK. Now, the best way to set up the light sources is to go to Active Camera down here and select Top, which will allow us to see our text from a top-down view, ensuring that we can apply the lights in the most realistic looking way possible. From here, hover over to the red X parameter arrow and click and drag it all the way over to the end of the screen, somewhere around here. Next, let's move this target thingy over to somewhere close to the center of the screen, creating sort of a 90-degree angle like this. Once you've done that, let's create another light source by duplicating it and repositioning it. So hit Ctrl D on your keyboard to duplicate it, and let's do the exact same thing but on the other side. Make the light source perpendicular just to make it easier for us to adjust it like so, and bring it to about here. Click on the target thingy again, and let's drag it to the other side of the center area like so. Once you've set up both light sources, click on top right here and change it back to active camera view like so to see the result of what we made so far. Now, here's where it's gonna start to get really awesome because we're gonna be adding an environment layer to this text. Let me show you how. First, select the project section over here on the left side of your screen and hit Ctrl I on your keyboard to import a colorful video clip to set as the environment in which the text will be encased in. If you don't have any environment assets, then go to the link in the description below to download my premium assets pack for completely free so you can follow along with me in this tutorial. Now for this example, I'll use this environment because it's my personal favorite. Once you've imported your colorful video clip, in order to make it an environment for your text, you first have to drag it over to this composition icon, then go back to your 3D text composition, drag the composition version of your video clip all the way to the bottom of your project, and finally, just right click the layer and set it as an environment layer by clicking here. Once you've done that, a little light bluish icon should pop up in between the composition icon and the name of your environment like so. Now, to activate the environment layer that we've just created, go back over to your text layer and go to material options. Here, what you want to do is set the reflection intensity to 100 and then mess with the specular shininess until it's tailored to your liking. Something around 60% is what I would personally recommend. And there you go. You've successfully transformed a boring 2D text into an awesome and stunning looking 3D text. But of course, if you play it back, you'll quickly realize that we're missing one key thing: movement. So, to add movement or animation to this text, let's go back to our camera over here in the timeline and go to Transform. Now, let's create 2 keyframes for the point of interest and position by dragging our time indicator here, all of the way to the beginning of the timeline, and click the stopwatch right here for both point of interest and position, like so. These keyframes that we've just created will allow us to lock down these parameters for the start of our video, so that if we move the time indicator to a different point and change the position and point of interest, it will create an automation of these 2 parameters, allowing us to animate and add movement. Okay, so now that we understand the concept of how we can add movement to this text, let's implement it. First, make sure that your time indicator is set back to the start and hold C while left clicking and dragging the text around to get a top-down view of the text like this, or maybe a bottom or a side view depending on what POV you want your text to start out at. Next, hold Alt and click and drag with the scroll wheel over your mouse to adjust the positioning of the text and center it like so. Once you've done that, move your time indicator to however long you want your text to do an in animation, and mine will be about 4 seconds, but something shorter like 2 or 3 seconds would also work really well. Now, let's do the exact same thing that we did before by holding C and rotating our text, and of course, center it by holding Alt and clicking the scroll wheel to drag it back like so. Finally, let's make this animation smoother and more dynamic by selecting all of our keyframes, going over to the graph editor here, select all of our keyframes again, and hit Easy Ease. Now, if you play it back, you'll get this really awesome and fire 3D text animation, which is cool and all, but let's make it even better by adding some more movement, effects, and overlays so that we can make it look more advanced like this. Okay, let's create a new composition where we'll house the 3D text that we've just made along with the finishing touches by clicking this icon here, and let's drag our 3D text composition into it. To start, let's add some shake or float to this text to make it a lot more interesting. We can do this by selecting our 3D text layer, going over to the Effects and Presets search bar and type Wiggle. If you don't see this section, then go to Window all the way up here and toggle on Effects and Presets, and it should pop up on your sidebar right here. The effect that we want to use in this case is the position one, so let's double click that like so, and it will automatically add that effect to your text. Now, if we look over to the Effect Controls panel over here, we can focus on 2 important parameters, wiggle speed and wiggle amount. The wiggle speed is essentially how many times your text will wiggle per second. On the other hand, the wiggle amount basically determines the intensity of our wiggle effect and how much our text is going to move. Now, I already experimented with the numbers for you guys, and I personally found that a wiggle speed of 2 and a wiggle amount of 50 gives the most aesthetic and cool looking result. But of course, you guys can decrease or increase those numbers depending on your preference. After you've got the floating effect down, then let's just add some glow to make our text pop and look professional. I'll be using Deep Glow because it's my personal favorite glow, but you can use the stock glow plugin and it will still look amazing. For the best results, make sure you place your glow effect before the floating effect, like so. For the last effect, I decided to add a levels effect to control the gamma of our text to make it a bit more aesthetic by decreasing this number here to 0.39. As you can see, this gives our text a bit more contrast and it helps control the glow to a perfect amount. Feel free to mess with all of these parameters to see what works the best for your personal situation. Finally, let's give this lonely 3D text some friends by adding some smoke and ember overlays to make it more cinematic and dynamic. If you don't have any overlay assets, I strongly suggest you go to the link in the description down below to download my free premium assets pack if you haven't already. So once you've downloaded those overlays, hit Ctrl I on your keyboard and let's import the fog overlay and the fire embers overlay. Drag them into your composition and make sure you place the embers overlay over the fog overlay like so. Now, go over here to the mode section and select screen for both layers. This will make it so that our fog and fire embers have their backgrounds removed and it can now seamlessly blend with our 3D text. Now, we are technically done, but I just want to step further and change the color of the fire embers to make them purple and pink by duplicating the overlay layer and putting some hue and saturation effects on them and adjusting the master hue wheel right here until we get the desired colors. And there you go. You have successfully made a stunning 3D text animation that looks awesome and is sure to grab attention. Congrats! If this tutorial helped, make sure you like, subscribe, and drop any questions you have in the comments below, and I'll try to answer them within 24 hours. As a bonus, you can check the link in the description and get access to some awesome free editing assets to help take your edits and projects to the next level. Now, before you go, check out my next tutorial here, which I think is the best one for you to watch next. Or you can click on this playlist here to watch all of my tutorials so far. I upload new videos every Friday, and I'll be updating the playlist weekly so you'll never miss out. I know you want to keep living up your editing skills, so go ahead and click one of these. Your future self will thank you. Trust me, they're worth it. Now get out of here.